I really had come to terms that Survivor was kind of put to bed for me. I was all right that I had a horrible last showing. And then I realized when I was called that I still kind of had that fire in my belly. I still wanted to do this.
Joining us now, she is a 4-time contestant on the reality show Survivor and the winner of season 50, where she outwitted, outplayed, and outlasted 23 other castaways, the largest field in Survivor history, to win the $2 million prize. Along the way to victory, she orchestrated some of the biggest moves of the game, ate some big-ass grubs, and clinched a spot in the final 3 with an immunity challenge win on the legendary Samotion Machine. Back in the day, she was also an assistant coach for my high school field hockey team, aka Moxie, and she was the first person I knew who was obsessed with astrology. The mom of Odin, partner of Tyler, and lover of a big blue pickup truck. Don't spell her name wrong. It's Aubry, Aubry Bracco. Welcome to the show, Aubry.
Oh, thank you, Azzi. I call you Azzi still. Thank you. Oh my gosh, you threw me back there. Thanks for the astrology cred and the big blue pickup. Oh, I missed that truck. It was a great truck.
I know. Well, you won a truck for your Survivor appearance, but it looks like it's a Land Rover. Any way to trade that in for a nice new big blue pickup truck?
Yeah, Land Cruiser. I'm going to stick with that and see how it does for a little bit. But yeah, Toyota treated me well along with CBS. So yeah, I love a good rugged vehicle.
I love that. All right. So before we get to your Survivor lore, I want to just set the scene for how we know each other. We're both New Hampshireites, went to the same high school. And for 2 years, you were the assistant coach of my high school field hockey team. And I'm curious, decades later, which is scary for me to even say it, but thinking back on those playing days and coaching days now, how much do you think your sports experience influenced your playing style on Survivor?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd say the school we went to overall was very high powered. I had a lot of anxiety around sports. I really did. There was like this anxiety on the field that you couldn't control everything. So I think high school sports is where I first faced that. What do you do when you fail in the moment and you have to pivot quickly and keep going? So I think that was a part of it. And then on the flip side, when I coached, I really had that opportunity to kind of help other people through like their emotional regulation in the moment on the field. And I think that ended up being key on Survivor. So I won't say that I mastered it in high school, but I'll say that those were the beginnings of realizing how to kind of self-regulate in the moment, fail fast, and pivot quickly.
I shared this on the show after you won, but thinking back on those days as a player, I remember just really struggling with my own kind of self-confidence and just, it was a big team with a lot of big personalities, but you always made me feel really seen and heard in a way that I still appreciate to this day. So thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I didn't even think about the personalities, but that's definitely part of it too. And something that Exeter did overall, right, is the Harkness table, it's all about the art of communicating with people who are different than you. So I think that was really important too. Yeah, that team had a lot of personality. It's why it had a lot of spirit.
Absolutely. A lot of moxie. All right. So let's set the scene for our listeners who aren't as familiar with Survivor. Your first 3 appearances on the show all happened in very close succession. In the late 2010s, you were a contestant 3 times in 8 seasons, finishing as runner-up on season 32, Cow Wrong, 5th on season 34, Game Changers, and then you ended up getting blindsided and voted out early on season 38, Edge of Extinction. And my understanding is that you took a break from Survivor after that, both as a contestant, but also as a fan. And I'm curious, what were your lingering thoughts and feelings after those 3 appearances?
Yeah, so I think I burned myself out. I played 3 times in 4 calendar years, and the love of the game, like it's cliche, but it was gone. I think back to, is it Alysa Liu who won the gold medal in the Olympics
in
this
figure
year?
Skating.
In figure skating, I really related to everything she said, where she's just like, I'm done. This isn't for me anymore. And it did. It felt like I'm not saying I was robbed, but everyone was like, she was robbed the first season. So I was at the height, and then I plummeted so quickly, and it was just a lot in a short period of time. And I really had to like return to myself. I feel like I didn't trust my own intuition, and I just felt kind of misaligned. And so I really had to kind of step back. And I stepped back from Survivor because I love Survivor, but it's definitely an environment and a community where you're constantly getting feedback about who you are, how you show up. And I really wanted to start to try to listen to myself again.
It also feels a lot of times like a zero-sum game too, unlike sports where you can assess your performance on so many different things. In Survivor, at the end of the day, only one person wins. And so it is a little bit like winner take all. And if you lose, like you didn't do enough.
No, it's true. I mean, I think Rizzo said it this season, where it's like, I'm not here to come in second, third, or fourth. Like those are all the same.
So during the show's first 49 seasons, there were 751 unique participants, which is a lot of people that producers had to consider when deciding who to invite for season 50. So what was it like when you found out your name was in the mix for season 50?
Oh, I mean, that's a great question, Oz. I was absolutely shocked. I was called in November 2024. I really had come to terms that Survivor was kind of put to bed for me. I was all right that I had a horrible last showing. I liked that I had played 111 days. If you're into astrology and numerology, that's a good number. And I was shocked when I was called. And then I realized when I was called that I still kind of had that fire in my belly. Like those embers were there. And then when it finally came time to talk to Jeff and the team about why I wanted to play, it kind of came out in a really fiery way where I realized I still wanted to do this.
But my understanding is that you got cut from consideration at some point along the way and then kind of got added back into the mix. Will you walk me through that?
Sure. So the Survivor 50 casting process, I mean, it's pretty well known. It was pretty chaotic, right? Like there's a lot of amazing players and puzzle pieces on the board, and one person drops. You have to figure out who's going to go in their place. It's a whole chemistry magic that Jeff and the executive producers do. And at one point, it didn't look like I'd have a spot, and I was okay with that. I said, I understand it's a business decision, because it is. Like I'm an entrepreneur now. I understand, like sometimes it's just not your time. And so I had about a month off where I was like, all right, this is okay. And then it came back, and it was almost a blessing to have that month of like, oh, this might not work. And I kind of returned to myself again. I really think that my power this season was that I knew who I was, and I returned to myself. And that month kind of gave me perspective that I love Survivor so much. I love when I throw myself into something, I throw myself into it 150%. And it almost helped to have a little bit of space and then come back like fully in my own power when it was time to go to Fiji.
Yeah, it's interesting because I can imagine in the sports world, if an athlete was on the bubble like that, on the roster, off the roster, it could mess with their confidence because they don't feel like they're good enough. But in Survivor, that it's not because you're good enough. It's just because there are specific things that the production team is looking for. But I'm curious, it sounds like for you, it didn't hurt your confidence. It almost just helped you reassess who you were.
Yeah, I was okay with it. And I'm someone too. This is why I love my buddy Rick Devens, who played with me this season. We get a little bit of a chip on our shoulder if we're like, oh, you don't believe in me. I mean, it wasn't that they didn't believe in me at all, but it's like never count me out kind of thing, which only fueled me more. I know Rick would relate to that.
Well, let's get to Fiji and the start of the season. Like we mentioned, largest group of contestants in show history, 24 returning castaways in the mix from the start. And only 2 of those people were unknown to you, Savannah and Rizzo, who had been on the prior season, 49. But for the rest of your competitors, what was it like? And I'm going to use the sports term here. Like, were you watching film on them ahead of time to kind of figure out what their game was going to be like?
I was. So when I was called for Survivor 50, I was still somewhat kind of out of it. I'd started watching 47 again. 48 was about to air. So I'd watched 48, but I also went back and watched all these new era seasons. So I went through the 30s, and then the new era in the 40s. This is what I love about Survivor. Jeff always evolves the game. And so the game had changed, and it's going to change in the 50s. I can't wait to see what the open era brings. But part of that was studying players, how they played. And then I studied everyone's exit interviews. What were their biggest mistakes? What were their biggest regrets? What were the things that hurt the most? What did they hope would come next? So yes, I did some extensive research. A lot of people didn't know I was in the mix for Survivor 50, but I was doing what I do. I was sitting there and researching on everybody. So I did a lot of research. Also, like how different people might potentially be connected.
Yeah. Sometimes when I'm watching just as a fan, I try to, like, ahead of the vote, write down who I think everyone's going to vote for. And I know sometimes that's influenced by how it's edited, right? It's not supposed to be totally obvious going into tribal council, but I'm curious for you, did you take notes on anything or try to like write down players' particular styles?
Yeah, for me, it's more that like a phrase I've been using a lot, and I think it's very relevant, is how people move in the game. Mm-hmm. Like I was very in touch with the energetic movements of people. I spent a lot of time doing intuitive healing, which is like understanding what energy is yours, what is other people's. Everybody kind of has a vibe, right? So when Q plays, I know Q's going to be kind of erratic. He'll tell me one thing and then he'll be over here doing this. Suri is someone I've played before, and I can feel when Suri is starting to get uncomfortable with someone. I can tell when someone's spending too much time with her and making her uncomfortable, but then when someone isn't spending enough and she's losing faith in them. I can tell when Rick Devens is itching to make a big move. So I think it was more like studying kind of their patterns of how they move in the game.
I love that description of it. And it makes a lot of sense thinking back on your season. We're going to get to your incredible immunity win on this emotion machine in a minute, but I'm curious in terms of your other preparation, physical preparation specifically, what did that look like for you?
Good question. So I had my son in August 2023, and I just gotten back into like cardio, working out, some weights, that kind of thing. I mean, I'm not a bodybuilder, but I made sure I was consistent with cardio, free weights, also just like a new mom. I had a kid who wasn't even 2. Yeah. He was 1.5. So I had that. And then I also had a lot of mental preparation too. I was practicing some survivor puzzles, some balancing stuff, and then just like the mental part of grounding myself. That was a big part of it for me, because I know every time I'm dropped in Fiji, it's like the body keeps the score. I feel all the vibes. I get very paranoid at the beginning, and I knew that I had to be able to right myself very quickly. So I just tried to do the best I could with everything I could. And part of that for me, like we talked about earlier, was studying and overstudying and intellectualizing everything.
One of the things that stood out to me the most about your season 50 performance is it felt like, in terms of your mental game, you did such a good job of compartmentalizing the fact that Survivor is a game, and specifically a game that includes lots of twists, unpredictable challenges, and at the end of the day, writing someone's name down. And it felt like sometimes other competitors, both in season 50 and other times, they take things really personally in a way that is just part of the game. And I'm curious if that is an approach that you feel like you developed over the course of the 3 seasons, or was really specific to season 50 for you?
That's an amazing question. That's something I think about a lot, because I do feel very deeply. Someone said to me that when I play, it's like I'm going to die if I get voted out any one time. Like I'm that intense about it. And Devens is like, who cares? This is fun. I always go back to him because we're buddies, and we're like kind of opposite ends in certain ways. But I would say, yeah, I think I developed it over time. I still get very hurt. And I would say there are certain things that people do that really hurt me. It's when they use like mental health or a deeply emotional thing to manipulate you. That's where I'm just like, unnecessary. But for the rest of it, like if I vote for you and you're pissed, but you voted for me, I'm like, okay, it's a game. So like I do have the ability to like, I think, put it in a box or realize that some of these things are just game things. Like it's not personal. That like, I mean, Jonathan voted for me and then I'm working with him on the next vote. That doesn't bother me. That's Survivor. That's the game. But in that case, he wasn't doing anything to like overly try to manipulate me before he voted for me. Like if Jonathan had come up to me and tried to say he's my best friend and like poured it on thick and then thought I'd work with him on the next vote, that probably wouldn't have happened. So I'd say it's something I've developed over time. It's something that's kind of circumstantial and depends on the person. But overall, I have worked to have this thought that it is a game. It is. And I've always been like that to an extent. I did definitely like struggle with the Sydney vote in 32 because we each voted for one another. And then we did have that respect. That was a little bit hard for me, but like, that's her experience, and I completely respect it and validate it. I would like to think in that situation, I'd vote for her, but hey, everyone has their own experience. And I do think a lot of my jury management was really understanding everyone's the hero of their own story. Everyone's allowed to feel the way that they feel. And that's what the beauty of Survivor. Like, you have all these different perspectives of like, yeah, it's a game, but it's personal, and it's personal to the 23 other players.
Yeah. I feel like you also really had that attitude in terms of the twist that producers threw at you, whether it was the Blood Moon night where 3 people got voted out, or the time that you and Rick Devens ended up partnering up together and a pair of people got voted out, and he pulled some shenanigans, pulling out a hidden but fake immunity idol at Tribal Council. And I think even a few times you were kind of like, it's the game. You just have to play the game. And I'm curious if you think there were any twists, though, that were maybe not in the spirit of the game this season that you wish maybe hadn't made an appearance.
I mean, to borrow from War Dog and Survivor 38, the theme is not on trial. The game is not on trial. I mean, what is the spirit of the game? The spirit of Survivor to me is that it always evolves and you don't know what's going to happen. And I know some people don't like that answer, but I think that's why it's on the air after 25 years. And I fully believe and will always believe that you sign a contract. The spirit of the game is whatever the producers deem it to be. And I respect that. So I will say the twist that broke my heart was Jimmy Fallon and Christian having to that stunk.
Yeah. Christian having to write his own name down.
I mean, it was awful. It was so awful, but
he raised his hand and went out to get a potential reward, though, at the end of the day.
That's the thing. I didn't volunteer to go. I think Emily Flippen said this. I didn't volunteer to go on any journeys. And that was a very strategic decision in the new era, that like anything could happen. You leave your options open. And if you don't want to be subject to the big unknown question mark, don't raise your hand.
Yeah. All right. Season 50, it feels like it didn't show too much of camp life. And I'm curious, what were you eating in the game before you finally got rice?
Woof. It was rough. I mean, something I joked is this new era moves so fast that you don't look for food. So I'd say in the first week of the game, we had a few coconuts, like coconut water, coconut juice, cotton candy coconut. There's like all different coconuts, like bubblegum, shrimp, and a couple slices of papaya. And that was about it. I'd say post-merge, we did catch some crabs. I went out with Stephanie and Jonathan, and I actually caught some. And we had a little bit of that, but it was not much for the first, I'd say 7 to 11 days. Yeah. That's when I lost most of my weight.
Oh, all right. So then we're going to fast forward quite a bit of time and get to that Final Four immunity challenge, this emotion machine. The best way I can describe it for folks who haven't seen it is it basically requires contestants to juggle, but the balls in this case are rolling in a metal contraption. And if you drop a ball, you're out. And it came down to the wire, but after the win, you revealed that you had actually ordered a Samotion machine, a little replica on Etsy, after learning it might be one of the possibilities for the final immunity challenge. And I'm curious, how much practice were you able to get on that thing before going out to Fiji?
I mean, I will tell you, Alex, it was small. It was like this big. I probably had like 45 minutes to an hour. It came right before I left. But what it did do is it really did help me kind of get in the rhythm. And the whole concept of the space between you drop a ball, you have one hand behind your back, you drop the ball. So you have 2 balls. Okay, now you have 5. The space between them has to be modified to make sure it's equidistant. It helped me get that concept. So when I had to lock in, I kind of just clicked into that and knew that's what I had to worry about.
Yeah. I feel like I saw a real big smile on your face when you walked up the stairs and onto the platform and saw that was what the final immunity challenge was going to be. I assume it was because you had practiced for it. Yeah.
I think I was probably psyching myself up, in all honesty, because I knew I had to win. We did like a practice round just to get a feel. Jeff just made sure that and I dropped it immediately.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, oh Lord, this isn't going to be good. I knew I had to win. And sometimes, I think I was trying to psych myself up. That's the thing, is like, I didn't think I had won the game after that. I didn't think I won when I saw it. I was just trying to stay positive because that was tough. Like I chose a route in the game where I knew at the Final Four I'd be in trouble, and somehow I pulled it out. That practice worked. That practice worked.
Well, that's so interesting that you got the practice round, because something when it comes to similarities between sport and Survivor is sport is about rules. You know, there's a rule book that's published. And I'm curious, as a Survivor contestant, do you get a rule book ahead of time? You mentioned the contract, but is there anything saying like you're allowed to do this, but not this when you're in this immunity challenge?
Specific challenges we kind of walked through very thoroughly, and it depends on the challenge. Game overall, there are some ground rule game rules, how different mechanisms of the game work. So we are privy to those kind of big game rules, and you're always able to ask too. There's like rules and fairness, judge, like any producer. Like I asked questions a few times about shot in the dark, or when I had the idol or the order in which I could play it. So there are some ground rules. And then you're also always able to ask. I think Survivor's done a really good job over the years of kind of amping up that person who is there if you have any questions, which is really cool because it's a very complicated game with a lot of moving parts.
Yeah. I'm always curious because Jeff will always say, let's draw for spots, but then you just cut straight to the beginning of the challenge. And I'm always curious, is that just like you're randomly selecting your spot, or are you selecting numbers and you get to choose which spot you want?
It's generally like you pull a rock out of a bag and it has a number or a color, and that's where you go.
Interesting. Yep.
I will say, unless it's a challenge where it's like, it depends on your height or your like wingspan, in which case you will have been measured beforehand and you will be placed based on that for fairness. So it does get that granular.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are there any specific challenges or skills that you prepared for that you didn't really end up using?
Yeah, the puzzles. I always practice the puzzles. Everyone assumes I'm good at puzzles because I wear glasses, and that's not the truth. I did well, thankfully, on the first puzzle I did in Survivor. It was a crab puzzle in Survivor, wrong, when I would have gone home. And it was like shapes and colors. I can do that, especially when it's like on a table in front of me. I'm not good at puzzles. I was like, I'm not doing the puzzles every time. So yeah, puzzles.
Oh, I love that. I was always thinking, it's funny, and I'm sure this is one of the rules, but I wouldn't be able to do the puzzle standing up. I'd be like, I want to take the pieces down and put them flat on the floor and arrange it that way. But I assume that's not allowed.
No, yeah. Sometimes you can put them like, there's a very specific place they can go. You can't really mess around, like that Phoenix puzzle at the final 5. Oh my gosh, I was so bad at that challenge. Poor Jeff was like, that ladder puzzle going up to it. Jonathan and I would joke about this. He'd be like, Aubry, there are 2 pieces left. Aubry, there are still 2 pieces left 10 minutes later. But my point in bringing that up is there's like a little table, but you couldn't take them off the table for the Phoenix portion.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Jeff for a minute, because he has, I think, one of the most interesting roles in television. He is simultaneously this show's color commentator and analyst and coach and referee. And I'm curious what it is like having this one legendary person out there filling all of these roles at once.
Survivor dad, too. There's like a paternal energy from Jeff in a way. Yeah. What's it like? I mean, Jeff is like a magical person. I mean that. Like I don't know if I've met someone who cares so deeply about what they do as Jeff cares about Survivor. Like, it's his life's work. He has an incredible passion and zest for what he does. And he does just like seamlessly morph into these different roles that are required of him. And when something unexpected happens, he's able to step into that role too. I mean, I was there in Survivor 32 Wrong, which was filmed in Cambodia in 2015. And we all went down with heat exhaustion, and Caleb ended up having, I believe, heat stroke and was medevaced, and it was terrifying. And Jeff stepped up to that moment. Production broke the 4th wall in airing it. And he just kind of stepped into like leader in that moment to make sure Caleb had what he needed to like literally survive. So Jeff is masterful at evolving in the large scale to keep doing what he needs to do to make sure that Survivor has long-term legs. And then he also is able to evolve in the moment and like meet the moment. He's very talented at it. He's incredibly perceptive about human nature and psychology. I mean, he doesn't know like every dynamic of what's going on in a tribe. When you come to tribal council, he has like the headlines, but he can just like sense or see body language and know what to ask. And he's masterful at it. He really is.
So let's fast forward to the finale. You're out in Los Angeles, live finale. The votes have been cast a year in advance.
10 months. Yeah.
10 months in advance. And what was it like when he finally started reading them off and you hear your name getting said over and over again?
It was such a relief, us, because Christian, Devins, and Emily would not tell anyone who they voted for. So I was pretty confident in 5. Jonathan knew about the 3, and Jonathan and I, those 3 told us that they weren't going to tell us over the past year, which I respect so much. I love Devins, Emily, and Christian. And Jonathan and I were like, what do you think? What do you think? And it was just such a relief when those came out of the urn. And I really love those 3 personally. And so it was nice. It was really nice to give Christian a hug and be like, there's no like weirdness now. You can just be my friend. So that was nice.
And I love that you immediately go to your family in the audience and hug them and get that support and love from them. It was a really special moment.
Thank you. It was.
We talk about it a lot in sports and especially at the Olympics, but there can be a huge letdown after competing in a major event and putting your heart and soul into something. And I'm curious what your Survivor experience has been like in terms of that letdown.
Oh, what a good question. You get it. There's definitely a bit of a crash. I mean, you're running on 150 million miles an hour. But that's the beautiful part of Survivor and doing it 4 times. I know that this too shall pass. And I had my moment and now it's time for other people. So is there a bit of a letdown? A little bit. But there's also this beauty of I can have a little more time playing with my son instead of worrying about a Survivor something. It's been great to get back to my marketing work with my clients. The world is moving fast. AI is changing everything and we're trying to figure it out. And I do think to a degree I need to slow down a little bit to speed up for myself. I've done Survivor for my 30s. First time I played, I was 29. Last time I played, I was 39. First time it aired, I was 30. Last time I was 40. And it's this incredible gift, Survivor. If you have no phone, you're disconnected. You're just with yourself when you're out there. And then there's this frenzy on the other end of the spectrum when it airs, where it's like all on the internet and everyone has an opinion and the perceptions are everywhere and the opinions are everywhere. And so I am welcoming the kind of slowdown from it. And I can't wait to see what happens in 51. Because I know Jeff and the team and the Survivor gods have something good up their sleeves. And I'm ready to, sometimes it's okay to slow down because I'm not someone who ever feels like they've arrived at anything. I'm always going to keep moving to figure out what's next. I don't feel like, oh, my life is over because Survivor's over. It's like, okay, what am I doing with my life next? I just keep over the horizon. That Sagittarius moon keeps me moving.
I love it. One of the ways that Survivor is also different from sports is that in sports, everything happens live, but in Survivor, you have to wait a long time for the audience to finally get in on it. And there's then, understandably, a whole lot of secrecy around the game. And I'm curious, how does it work for contestants when they get home in terms of who they're allowed to share things with?
Yes. Oh my gosh, you have such great questions. Thank you. They're really good.
I'll credit our high school.
Because you're really tapping into like the things that like are, real things that we don't always talk about. So you do have some family members who sign a very intense NDA. But other than that, you really can't talk to anyone. And I really have learned, I just have like, people are always like, is it hard? Is it hard? I mean, I've sat to wait for the vote twice now. The first time was over a year. It was the longest wait in Survivor history because we filmed and the seasons filmed and aired out of order. I just assume a different personality. I'm like, I just went back to my life. It's all good. I'll know when I can know. And I know that might sound like cavalier. Like, what is she talking about? I think about Survivor every day when I'm waiting. But it's also, what are you going to do? I just kind of morph into my life. So I've played it so many times that I feel like I've figured that part out.
Well, I think about it just in my own day-to-day life I love being able to unpack things and life events and challenges with friends. Like that's how I figure out how I feel about things. And so the idea of not having that outlet feels really scary to me. And I'm curious, do you get to do any of that unpacking when you're then watching it air with more people?
So in the time before it airs, you do have the other contestants, and then there is the therapist on the show is absolutely incredible. So you do have those people. When it's the other contestants, it's funny because we're all the heroes of our own stories and everyone kind of has like their little agendas come out. But that's a big support. You find your people on the cast. And the people who are your friends and allies on the cast are not always the people that were on the island. I'd always say that the people you are friends with on the show aren't always the people you are after, and the people you're not friends with on the show sometimes are your friends after. So you do have some people.
That's so interesting about the show's therapist. What role does that person serve, both, I guess, during the game, but then after the game?
That person is with you while you're in casting, before you go out, like in the pregame, when you get voted out, when you come home, and follows up with you after. So you're very well, you have the support, and it's really helpful to have someone who is like close to it and understands what a unique experience it is.
Yeah. It's such an interesting role. Obviously, this would never work because of patient confidentiality, but like, man, they must have great stories they could share about people dishing on certain drama and other people saying things different ways.
Oh my gosh, if HIPAA wasn't a thing, the therapists of reality shows would have their own union and start a show.
The therapist of reality shows. Yeah, that's a good title. $2 million. That sounds like a pretty life-changing sum. And I'm curious, you mentioned in the finale, you're planning on investing it into your son's future, but does it open up any life goals or family goals that maybe weren't open to you before?
A lot. I mean, it's already away. Like first thing I did, that stuff is away. But it does allow me the ability to maybe own a house, which seems like a very attainable thing, but is much harder now than it once was. And I don't know, I'm thinking about like what I want my day-to-day to look like. Is there an opportunity to start a business or do something a little bit differently? Because I really think time is money. I believe that your daily routine and habits are the most important thing. I'm a grinder. I work really hard, and I'm going to continue to do that. But I'm considering, is there a way to kind of use my time a little bit differently so I can focus on what fulfills me, and I'm focusing on what I can uniquely do instead of being an octopus who does everything, which is very much how I run my life.
Okay, final question for you. It was not until I was preparing for this interview that I learned my co-producer, Bianca, has sent in audition tapes to be on Survivor, but has never gotten past the second round. And I'm curious if you have any advice for her or any of our listeners who are hoping to one day make an appearance on the show.
Well, she should come on here and give us her elevator pitch. What is my advice? Know who you are. Own who you are. Don't try to be somebody else, and just be louder than you ever think you'd have to be on camera. Like my favorite thing is I'm often told I'm boring. I'm like, because I'm speaking at like normal speak. You have to get their attention like this. Like I would never speak in a room like this, but on camera, it's what pops. Like if I went out like this, people would say, what is wrong with that person? Why are they talking like that? But there is like a veil between the camera and the person, and you have to break through it or they're not going to hear you. So be yourself, know who you are, own your story, and understand why your story is going to make you the sole survivor and how it's going to affect the way you play.
I love that. Well, Aubry, this has been a true delight. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you
so much for joining us.
Of course. Thank you for having me.